Alright, we're going to continue with our practice of factoring trinomials, and there are, remember, a variety of methods you could use as long as your final answer really multiplies out to the original problem, you're okay, and as long as you can't factor any further. So let's look at this example here. How would you deal with a negative coefficient of x squared, such as 2 minus 5x minus 3x squared? I showed an example of this in the last video. Two ways to do it. One is to simply go ahead and use the box method. Just don't worry about it. So we've got, and actually this works pretty well with the box method. This is the answer would be 2 minus 5x and minus 3x squared. And if you want, you could even put the negative 3x squared first, then the negative 5x and the 2. I'm going to do it both ways. So let's say we wrote it in this fashion. So the 2 would be here, the negative 3x squared would be here. The two terms in this box must add up to negative 5x. So the variable part is x. Alright, so we need to find two numbers that have a product of 2 times negative 3, or you take the first and last term here, which is negative 6, and the sum is negative 5. Alright, so we've got 6 and 1. Let's see, I usually write the smaller number first, don't I? So we've got 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Now the sum is negative, so the bigger number must be negative. And since the product is also negative, we need opposite signs. So this one does it for us. So we could have a plus 1 and a minus 6, and it doesn't matter where we put either one. So let's just put the plus 1 here, and you could have just left it as x, and the negative 6 here. Alright, so now we're going to pull from the first column the greatest common factor. Well, all there is a 1. That's the greatest common factor between 2 and 1x. So 1 times what will give you 2? That'll be a 2. 2 times what will give you a negative 6x? Negative 3x. Negative 3x times what will give you negative 3x squared? That'll be an x. So it looks like 1 minus 3x times 2 plus x is a correct factorization. Now let's just do a little check. Double check it. Let's do first outer inner last. 2 plus x minus 6x minus 3x squared is 2 minus 5x minus 3x squared. And so yes, convince yourself when you're done that if you did multiply it out using the FOIL method, that you have the correct factorization. Alright, now the alternative way of doing this problem is you can write the problem you want to factor, 2 minus 5x minus 3x squared, so that the x squared term is first. Negative 3x squared minus 5x plus 2, and factor out a negative 1. Now, you could just write a minus sign or a negative 1, but that would be a 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. And then let's go ahead and do the shortcut method here. Actually, I'm going to do trial factors because there aren't many choices here. So 3 and 2, both of those numbers are prime, so there are not many choices here. So I'm going to have a 3x times an x. That's the only way to get 3x squared. Now as far as 2 and 1, I know I've got to either put the 2 here and the 1 there, or vice versa, and then I'll also have to deal with the negative signs. So let's just try it one way. Let's just put the 2 here and the 1 there. And let's see. If I had opposite signs, I could put the plus and the minus. And let's just check it out. The outer term is 3x, and the inner term is minus 2x. Nope, that does not give you 5x. So you be very careful that you don't think that adds up to 5, because it's 3x and negative 2x. So I've got the 2 and the 1 in the wrong parentheses. So I've got to switch it and put the 1 here and the 2 there. That's the only other way to do it. See, I want to get a plus 5x, so I'm going to put the plus in front of where it's going to be plus 6x, and I have 3x minus 1 and x plus 2. Let's check that out. 3x times 2x is 6x minus 1x, yes, that does it. So I did this one by trial factors, and I got this answer, which of course is the same thing as negative 1 times 3x minus 1. The question is that really the same as 1 minus 3x times 2 plus x? Are these two really exactly the same? And the answer is yes, because if I multiplied the negative 1 times 3x minus 1, by the way, you don't distribute it to both parentheses, you have to distribute to one of the parentheses. So that would mean negative 1 times 3x minus 1. When I do it here, that gives me negative 3x plus 1. I still have my x plus 2. And then negative 3x plus 1 could be written as 1 minus 3x times x plus 2. So you got to convince yourself that is exactly the same as what I did doing it the other way. And any teacher should recognize that. So whether you give your answer as 1 minus 3x times 2 plus x, or a minus sign with a 3x minus 1 and an x plus 2, and whether you write x plus 2 or 2 plus x, those are also exactly the same. We've got the correct factorization. But you need to make sure that you understand those are the same. When you start checking answers against somebody else's, or you're looking in a textbook and you're saying, why does it look differently? It's because there's more than one way of writing 1 minus 3x. One way of writing it is a minus sign, parentheses 3x minus 1. Okay, let's say you were given this problem, factor 10x cubed minus 44x squared plus 16x. Well, it is a trinomial, but the first step, anytime you're factoring anything, is to see if there's a common factor in all the terms, and if so, to factor that out to the front. That's where you're doing the opposite of the distributive property. So that's step 1. So you're looking for the common factor. The greatest common factor is 2x. So first you need to factor out the 2x. So that gives me 5x squared minus 22x plus 8. And now notice these are much smaller numbers to deal with here. So now we're going to factor that. Okay, I'm going to do the shortcut tricky method here. Okay, you can do it using the box method. You can do it using factoring by grouping. You can do it by trial factors. All right, I'm going to do the product sum. So the product is 40, and the sum is negative 22. What's important, though, is notice I'm writing my 2x out here. Don't forget that 2x is already done out in front. It's a factor. And now we're just going to factor what's left in the parentheses into two binomials, if possible. So factors of 40, 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 does not go into it, 4 and 10, 5 and 8, those are all the factors of 40. Since the sum is negative, bigger number's negative, and since the product is positive, each pair of numbers has to have the same sign, so they're both negative. And there's the winning combination. All right, so what's our next step? We take the first term in the parentheses, the 5x squared, and put it with one of these coefficients with the x. Now, it doesn't matter which one. You could do the minus 2 or the minus 20. For fun, I'm going to do the minus 20. X, don't forget the x. So we factor out the greatest common factor, and we know that's one of the factors. So now we know x minus 4 is one of the factors. So let's figure out the other factor. X times what is 5x squared? That's 5x. And negative 4 times what gives you 8? Well, minus 2. And first let's multiply those together and see if it really is 5x squared minus 22x plus 8. All right, so we're going to do first outer inner last. X times 5x is 5x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x and a negative 20x. So that adds up to negative 22x. Very careful of your signs. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. So I did correctly factor this trinomial. Now let's keep going. What's 2x times that trinomial? Do the distributive property. And when you do that, you'll get right back up to 10x cubed minus 44x squared plus 16x. So that means this is the complete factorization. Now, if you forget to take the 2x out first, it becomes a much more difficult problem and to do when you do the product and sum, because you'll have to do 10 times 16. And then at the end, you'll have to pull out the 2x. If you forget, it won't be factored completely. So step 1 in factoring is always to first pull out the greatest common factor. All right, so that's the main thing to remember. Always pull out the greatest common factor, if possible, before trying to factor trinomials. And I think we're finally done working with all of the these main types of trinomials where the first term is got a coefficient of x squared or a minus sign in front of it. Practice, be careful, and always, always, always check your answers. I hope you learned something. Remember, math is cool.